Visible with liberty and justice for all. My name is Charlotte Merrick, and I have been a Girl Scout for 4 years. Girl Scouts unleashes the go-getter. Innovator, risk-taker, leader in every girl, preparing her for a lifetime leadership. Girl-led, expert-approved, and volunteer-supported. Girl Scouts help girls discover their strengths and change the world. Making a mark and making a difference, that's a job for a Girl Scout. Girls of all abilities, interests, and backgrounds from kindergarten through high school are welcome. To find out more, please visit our cookie booth in the lobby. Have a great meeting, and thank you. Color guard dismissed. Audience, you may be seated. What? I did. Audience, you may be seated.
Thank you very much, girls. Excellent job. As all members have received a copy of the minutes of our 2 January meetings, the reading of those minutes will be omitted. I do have a change to the attendance. This is for the, was this for the first or the second? Do you remember? Do we have both minutes here?
Yeah, it's the first one.
First one, all right. Donna Gaudioso Zeal of District 9 was present, and that change will be reflected in the minutes. Are there any other proposed changes to the minutes of our January meetings? Yes? At the 22nd meeting? Okay, Bill Collins also. Any other proposed changes? Hearing none, absent objection, the minutes as, I'm sorry? Yes? I can't hear you.
The meeting in January was canceled, and then they had another meeting tomorrow.
Well, no, it wasn't canceled. It was short-circuited. We are counting, if you were at either of the January meetings, you get credit for the January meeting. Is that the question? Okay. I still can't hear you.
Were you marked absent?
If you were marked absent, if you were marked present at either of those January meetings, you are good for January. We counted it as one January meeting, and you had 2 opportunities to be present. I can't hear you, I'm sorry. All right.
I was not listed for either one of them.
You didn't make either one.
Oh, I did. I made the second one.
So why are we continuing to talk about this? You made the January meeting, you're good.
No, but she needs to be, her name was omitted from the,
She didn't make the first meeting, she made the second meeting.
Right.
So the first meeting, you are absent.
That's correct. All right, any other changes to our minutes?
It's not in the second one.
All right, so with the 2 changes that we have noted, as amended, the January meetings stand adopted upon unanimous consent. Art Norton, who is chair of a special committee set up by the BET while he was a member of the BET and continued after he stepped off. Art Norton?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator, members of the RTM, guests, since March 2017, the BET has had a special committee, the Nathaniel Weatherall Strategic Planning Committee. We completed it on December 2017, an extensive report from the 4 members of the committee, which at that time consisted of Beth Crumick, Jill Oberlander, Nancy Weisler, and I. And from that report, which I have a copy in my hand, a number of options for the future of Nathaniel Weatherall were presented, as well as a series of recommendations. I was asked by Jill Oberlander, the chair of the BET, to continue to serve the committee as chair, and I have done so since its inception. The committee this year has been meeting on a fairly regular and consistent basis, and we've broken into 3 subcommittees. The 3 subcommittees were basically to address the recommendations that came out of the report, which is dated December 2017. The 3 committees, one was to deal with the issue of strategic planning, and subsequent to that, we retained HDG Consultants of Edina, Minnesota, who also served in that capacity when we were considering Project Renew in 2005, 2006, 2007. The second subcommittee has dealt with the audit issues, and we retained PKA Davis O'Connor to do an audit review. The third subcommittee has addressed the issues involving the staff as well as the labor contracts. Last Tuesday, the members of the committee, which are made up of 4 BET members, Nancy Weissler and I, who are non-voting members, and also Jill Oberlander, approved the report that we had requested from HDG as a result of the contract that we signed with them 8 months ago. The vote of the committee was 4-0, and the committee report with appendages and additions are on the website, which I have provided to your moderator. I don't know if he has provided to every one of you, but it's an extensive report. We have scheduled 2 meetings a week from today. The first meeting at 2 o'clock, the second meeting at 5:30. Both meetings will be public meetings, however, they will not be public hearings. The first meeting of the committee, we will see first the completed report from PKF O'Connor Davis of their audit report for the years fiscal 17 and fiscal 18. Followed by that will be the report from HKG Consultants of the work that they have been doing for the last 8 months, in which they do make recommendations. Subsequent to discussion of that meeting from 2 o'clock until whatever, there's a meeting scheduled for 5:30, and both meetings are scheduled for the town hall meeting room. The 5:30 meeting will be with the full BET and the board of directors of Nathaniel Witherell. I'm inviting all members of the public to join us in that meeting in town hall meeting room. As I say, it's a public meeting. It will not be a public hearing. So the only people for whom we're able to accept questions will be from the members of the BET and the board of Nathaniel Witherell. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. All right, that brings us to the call of tonight's meeting. I notified our district and committee chairs on Saturday morning that based upon the reports received, I would recommend the following organization. I will combine in a moment on our consent calendar items 2 and 3. I will then suggest that we suspend the rules and combine items 4 and 6 for voting purposes and consider separately items 5, 7, 8, and 9, item 1 having been withdrawn. And I'd like to thank our Assistant Town Clerk, Kim Jordan, who posted that on the news flash of the new RTM website Saturday morning. And I'd like to thank the members who attended a meeting, I believe it was February 21st, where Liz Perry, thank you Liz, for reviewing how the new website is going to work, and Alexis Vulgaris and I were also there to answer questions. So thank you to all involved who came and suggested that we get something like that up on the website. All right, so at this point I will now designate the following 2 items for our consent calendar, and if they remain, all you will hear tonight is what I say, as we do not get committee reports or have discussion on consent calendar items. Item number 2 is the first item that I will designate for our consent calendar. It is a resolution appointing Jude Collins to be a regular member of the Condemnation Commission with a term expiring March 31, 2023. And the second item for the consent calendar is item 3, a resolution appointing Greg Zorthian to be a regular member of the Claims Committee with a term expiring with the RTM term on December 31, 2019. Is there any objection to those 2 items being on our consent calendar? Hearing none, will the district chairs please mark your voting cards, consent calendar items 2 and 3, and proceed to poll your delegation. Next, it was the consensus of those reporting to combine for voting purposes items 4 and 6. That requires a motion to suspend the rules. Is there such a motion? It has been moved and seconded to suspend the rules to combine items 4 and 6 for voting purposes. That motion is not debatable and requires a 2/3 motion majority to pass. All those in favor of combining items 4 and 6 for voting purposes, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion has carried. So item 4 now comes before us. May we have the resolution on that item? That is from our Appointments Committee. John Eddy is chair of our Appointments Committee.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator and members. Resolved that the following named person nominated by the Appointments Committee of the RTM be appointed alternate member A1 of the Claims Committee for a term expiring December 31st, 2019. It's Allison Walsh.
Thank you. That coming from one of our committees does not require a second and is now before us. May we have the reports of the committees that considered this? Who would like to begin? Okay. John Eddy with the Appointment Committee report.
Thank you. Whoop, wrong take. Okay, so the Appointments Committee met on February 5th to nominate for the Claims Committee. Mr. Zorthian was nominated to serve as a regular member, which opened up an alternate spot, and the committee interviewed Ms. Walsh. Ms. Walsh is from District 3, and she served on the RTM since 2016. She is a practicing attorney with a wide variety of experience: litigation, employment, investigations, arbitration, grievances, negotiations. We did refer to her as a Swiss Army knife. She has a private practice in has had a private practice in environmental law, asset management, international contract law, SEC compliance, client relations, and mediation. She's certified in mediation. She is now an outsourced general counsel to a wide variety of clients. Her focus with the Claims Committee is on alternatives to litigation. She brings experience in alternative dispute resolution as a way to manage litigation to avoid dollar costs and employee time costs associated with litigation. She was also unanimously endorsed by current Claims Committee members to serve as an alternate. The Appointments Committee voted 12 out of 12 nominating votes to nominate Ms. Walsh.
Thank you. Doug Wells, chair of our Legislative and Rules Committee.
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, we took up the matter of Allison Walsh's appointment as an alternate member last Monday evening. Ms. Walsh is a member of the Legislative and Rules Committee, so we know her well. We are aware of her fine legal skills, and our vote on her was 11-0-0 with District 1 absent.
All right, Mike Basham with the report of the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Allison appeared before the Finance Committee last Monday night. She was very forthright in admitting that she prefers mediation, which she has a lot of experience in, as opposed to taking a lot of the lawsuits actually into litigation. And we questioned her on that, and she felt very positive about that as an alternative for the town in an effort to try to reduce our litigation costs. Our vote was 9-0-2. District 12 was absent. The two abstentions took issue with her. They were concerned that arbitration and mediation might not be the deterrent to the frivolous lawsuits that they were concerned about. But we did approve her 9-0-2. District 12 was absent.
Thank you. Mr. Fox, alternatives to litigation, like mock trials? That's an inside joke. All right, discussion on item 4. Item 6 now comes before us. John Toner, our selectman.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Resolved that the following named person nominated by the Board of Selectmen be appointed a regular member of the Board of Human Services, R4, for a period beginning April 1st, 2019 and expiring June 30th, 2019. Thomas Petrone.
Thank you. Will the member please move the adoption of the resolution? Resolution on item 6 has been moved and seconded. May we have the reports of the committees that considered this? Patty Roberts with the Health and Human Services report.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The committee met on March 5th to discuss the appointment of Tom Petrone. It was a great meeting. He moved to Greenwich in 2000, retired after a 30-year career with Citigroup 12 years ago. He met with Dr. Berry, who indicated that his financial skills would be very helpful to balance out the board. Due to the short notice, he had not been able to attend any board meetings, yet not met, nor has met any of the other board members. He would be taking the place of filling Barbara Nolan's spot. The vote was 8-1 with District 6 absent. District 4 and District 11 voted no, as they did not feel that he had enough familiarity with the Board of Human Services.
Thank you. John Eddy with the report of the Appointments Committee.
We don't have much to add. The Appointments Committee vote was 12-0-0 to recommend his appointment.
Thank you. Discussion on item 6. All right. I will call for a vote on the combined calendar items. Will the district chairs please mark your voting cards, combined calendar items 4 and 6, and proceed to poll your delegation. While we are voting, we will continue with the first of the separate items. Item number 5 now comes before us. Larry, are you going to offer that? Larry Simon, Chair of the Nathaniel Witherell Board.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Members of the RTM, I have a substitute resolution to offer. Resolve that the sum of $255,000 be and the same is hereby appropriated to account H450 59560 19198 boiler equipment for costs associated with the replacement of Witherell's hot water boiler system.
Thank you. Will the member please move the adoption of the substitute resolution? Substitute resolution on item 5 has been moved and seconded. In summary, it just gets rid of all the whereas clauses in the original motion and retains the dollar amount, which hasn't changed, and the account to which that will go. Is there any need to reread the substitute resolution? I know it was emailed around. All right, hearing none, thank you. So the substitute is now before us. Patty Roberts with the report of the Health and Human Services Committee.
Okie dokie. Larry Simon and Alan Brown indicated that they had originally budgeted to replace the hot water boiler system in July of 2019, but because only 4 of the 14 boilers are currently working, the decision was made that they needed to be replaced immediately. There was some background on the fact that the Armstrong boilers that were put in place in 2014 had the capacity to handle all 200 residents, but 7 boilers were dedicated to the showers and baths, and the remaining 6 were for laundry and the kitchen area. Unfortunately, because of the way the thing was designed, and they rusted out within 1 year and had to be replaced under warranty, and then replaced again a year later. At this stage of the game, because so few are working, they needed to get replaced immediately. The BET has requested Nathaniel Witherell work with the town legal department to explore avenues to recover the cost of this replacement through legal proceedings. Alan Brown indicated that all information has been provided to legal. The new boilers will be stainless steel. There will be 4 boilers dedicated to bath and showers, with 1 of the 4 being redundant, 3 boilers for laundry and kitchen, with 1 being those being redundant. The vote was 10-1-0 with District 7 voting no, as she does not feel it is appropriate for the town to own Nathaniel Witherell, and District 6 was absent.
Thank you. Mike Basham, Vice Chair of our Finance Committee, with that report.
Yes, Larry and Alan appeared before us on Monday night. Actually, it was the Finance Committee that recommended that we simplify the prior resolution, and Larry was kind enough to agree to submit that. We discussed it, and we made note. Well, we voted 11-0-1 with an abstention. I don't see him here in the room, but anyway, it was passed, We did make note of the fact that the original 255 approximately thousand was in the fiscal 2022 budget for Nathaniel Witherall. Apparently it had been accelerated until this coming fiscal year's budget, and we wanted to make note of the fact that we wanted to make sure that money, the 255,000, was removed from the fiscal 2020 budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion on item 5. Will the district chairs please mark your voting cards, substitute resolution on item 5, and proceed to poll your delegation. Item 7 now comes before us. John Toner, our selectman, with that resolution.
Resolved that the following named person, renominated by the Board of Selectmen, be appointed a regular member of the Harbor Management Commission, R4, for a term beginning April 1st, 2019 and expiring March 31st, 2022. William Ingram.
Thank you. Will the member please move the adoption of the resolution? Resolution on item 7 has been moved and seconded. May we have the reports of the committees that considered this? Mr. Eddy, the Appointments Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Ingram is a third-generation Greenwich Fire Department member. He's a lifelong voter and advocate for the Sound. He is a demonstrable repository of the history of local waters, and he expressed that he enjoys very much working on the Harbor Management Commission over the past few years. In his previous service, he's helped create the Harbor Management Plan and is familiar with regulatory statutes. He's currently a member of the Commission's Mooring Committee, where a new mooring system, he let us know, has been implemented with GPS tracking and info, which allows quick response by police and emergency crews. Mr. Ingram is also the Commission liaison to the Harbor Master, and in his conversations with us, his focus was on safety, particularly speed regulations around Captain's Island, and working with federal and state agencies to address the speeding issues out there. He expressed a commitment to being personal to the public, and he has walk-in hours, or he participates in the walk-in hours that the Commission has now in Town Hall. Looking ahead, he let us know that his concern about the future, and one of the challenges facing the town and the Commission, is finding balance with development and keeping public access to the waterfront and ensuring that marinas can survive. The Appointments Committee vote was 12-0-0, recommending the appointment of Mr. Ingram.
Thank you. Peter Berg, Chair of our Land Use Committee.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator, fellow members. So we interviewed Mr. Ingram last Monday night. We heard the same thing as you just heard from Mr. Eddy. As Mr. Eddy mentioned, Bill Ingram is the liaison from the Harbor Management Commission to the Harbor Master, and you're probably aware that there's been some tension between the Harbor Master and the Harbor Management Commission, so we asked about that. Mr. Ingram explained that the Harbor Master continues to have the authority to issue mooring permits, but the Commission does not send him applications for renewals because they're considered to be routine and would just be extra work. So one other thing, several members asked about the current process by which people who want to stay overnight at Island Beach are not allowed to offload their boats at the dock. They have to do it into the water by the beach. Bill said he would look into that and see if he could gain permission for people to unload at the dock. Our vote on Mr. Ingram was 11 in favor, 0 opposed. We had 1 absence, District 5.
Thank you. And Andy Chapin, Chair of our Parks and Recreation Committee, on Mr. Ingram.
We met with Mr. Ingram last Tuesday. The comments are relatively the same. Many of us have or several of us have known Mr. Ingraham for many years, and he is a very knowledgeable person on the waterfront. He brought us up to date with the moorings. Approximately 170 have been identified as not in the town database. And they're starting the process of going through those and trying to identify if somebody's actually on them or not, and whether they should be reassigned or just put in the database with who is actually there. They've also made good progress on the dredging, and they hope to present a plan to us soon. The plan that they are advocating right now is one in which some of the contaminated material within the Greenwich Harbor would be put into a CAD cell offshore. So that's a contained aquatic detention disposal cell, where they essentially go out between here in Captain's Island and wherever they think it's appropriate, dig a hole deep in the bottom, put the soil, the bottom with PCBs in it, and then cap it with sand and let the natural bottom come over. That will come before us in the future, and we can talk about it more then. The committee voted 12-0-0 in front of Mr. Ingraham. What I should take note, though, is I did receive an inquiry from a delegate with concern that the ongoing communications issues and working relationship between the Harbor Management, the Harbor Management Commission and the Harbor Master concerned him, because would it be possible for the Harbor Management Commission to reassign a mooring that somebody else thought they'd done the right thing with the Harbor Master, and would the residents suffer? I took the time to go back and talk to Mr. Ingraham and also to Ian McMillan, and that's not going to happen. And so they're bending over backwards to make sure that does not happen and that they honor there. But they do want everyone in the database, in the town database. We should be able to see everyone who has a mooring where, and make sure that, you know, there are no sweetheart deals. It's really in the full light of day as to who has what where. Communications is a problem, and I don't understand it. There's a lot of pointing at each other. I really don't care whose fault it is. I don't think anyone here does. We just want to get it on for the benefit of the town. So I will reach out to the Parks and Rec Board, and I will go myself, and we will plan to go down and understand why we're having this mooring problem in the future, because we really don't want to hear about it anymore. We just want to resolve it. All right, so I figured I'd say that to you, and I hope I have good news for you in the future. If I'm missing a few feathers or, you know, walking with a limp, you'll understand. And hopefully we can all move on. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion on item 7. Will the district chairs please mark your voting cards, item number 7, and proceed to poll your delegation. I do have the result of the 3 votes that we have taken so far. Vote on the consent calendar items 2 and 3. Those in favor, 169, opposed 0, abstaining 1. The vote on the combined calendar items, those were items 4 and 6. Those in favor, 165, opposed 1, abstaining 4. And the vote on the Nathaniel Witherell appropriation, this is item 5, substitute resolution. Those in favor, 162, opposed 4, abstaining 3. That item is carried. All right, item 8 now comes before us. Mr. Toner, I thought you might match ties with me tonight.
Next weekend.
All right, so Sunday is a big day, and then the parade is when?
The 24th.
24th, all right. We look forward to seeing you walking down Greenwich Avenue.
I might be riding.
Okay.
But I'll wave.
All right.
Resolved that the following named person, not renominated by the Board of Selectmen, be appointed a regular member of the Historic District Commission, R1, for a term beginning upon appointment and expiring October 31st, 2023.
Aris Chris, thank you. Will a member please move the adoption of the resolution? Resolution on item 8 has been moved and seconded. Mr. Eddy, for the Appointments Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The Appointments Committee voted to postpone this item until the April meeting.
All right, so you are asking the RTM to vote to postpone, and Mr. Berg, does your committee concur with that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, so you said to the April meeting?
Yes, sir.
All right. So again, offered on behalf of our committee, doesn't require a second. Before us now is a motion to postpone item 8 to the April meeting. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion to postpone has carried. Item 9 now comes before us. John Toner.
Resolved that upon unanimous approval by the Board of Selectmen, that Henry Drive Extension, which commences at the intersection of Henry Drive Extension and Cove Ridge Lane for a distance of 400 feet, be renamed to Monty Point. The request is made by the owner of the 3 properties on Henry Drive Extension. This name change is to take effect upon ratification of the Board Representative Town Meeting.
Thank you. Will the member please move the adoption of the resolution? Resolution on item 9 has been moved and seconded. Peter Berg, Chair of our Land Use Committee. Land Use took this up.
Land Use Committee voted to take this up. It was not referred to us. One of our members, Louisa Stone from District 10, a former chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission, informed us that this request has come to us before and that has been found to lack good information and justification and would create confusion because it would change maps and directions and such. This is one homeowner who owns 3 houses who wants to change the segment of that street to his name. So we did take a vote on it. We voted 1 in favor, 10 opposed. District 5 was absent.
Thank you. John Mastracchio presenting the report for the Public Works Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Public Works took this item up on March 4th, and as was previously indicated, this item came before the body last June, and when Public Works made a motion to postpone to September of last year asking for more information, it was subsequently withdrawn by the Selectman's office. It's presented again tonight, and your Public Works Committee discussed this and was concerned about lack of information, specifically details associated with this. What's the scope, the extent of the name change? We were given some statistics and details, but it would have been nice to have a map showing us exactly where this is going to be done. Additionally, there was a question about the need for this, a detailed explanation regarding the need for the name change. Why is this being done? Many roads in Greenwich are named after historic figures. There's significance, and indeed Henry Drive is one of them. What are the costs associated with this? Details about all the costs associated with the change of a roadway and who's responsible for them. We were aware of signage, but I'm sure it goes beyond just replacing a street sign. What authorities do we have to notify? The post office, the state government, the federal government? What are the implications? We're not the experts. We don't know, but we do know there's costs beyond replacing a street sign, so we'd like to know what those costs are. And legally, is there a precedent for this? If not, does this set a precedent? Will Mr. Toner be coming up to us later asking for a change to Toner Drive? We'd probably approve that. So the committee discussed this, and we're prepared to make a motion to postpone this item to June in the hopes that the Selectman's office will come back with the information we just discussed.
I don't know. I might support a proposal to change it to Penny Lane after Mr. Penny in District 11. Penny Lane, always wanted to go there. All right. So are there any other committee reports on this? Hearing none, I will then recognize you for your motion.
All right. The Public Works Committee moves that this item be postponed to the June 2019 meeting.
All right, discussion on the motion to postpone item 9 to our June meeting. All right, since this is a procedural matter, I will call for a voice vote. All those in favor of postponing item 9 to our June meeting, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. That motion is carried. I do have the result of the vote on item 7. That was the appointment of William Ingraham to be a member of the Harbor Management Commission. Those in favor, 169, opposed 1, abstaining 1. That item has carried. That does conclude our agenda. I do want to thank Alexis Vulgaris, who got to work immediately on the parking issue. We had been denied access to the lots across the street at Greenwich Baptist Church, and I want to thank them and thank Alexis for the liaison with the church. They opened all their lots to us. I ask anyone who parks over there, please be respectful of the property so that we can continue having access going forward. So that concludes the business of the meeting. There being nothing further to come before us, this meeting stands adjourned upon unanimous consent. Thank you all for coming. Have a safe trip home.